How's it going, everybody? This is Some For All, and I got a very, very special guest in the building. We have the second place Jiro player in the most recent event for Jasco Games. Mr. Spiff himself is here. How's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. So today we're going to just talk a little bit about his deck, why he decided to play it, his thoughts on the meta, and all those things. So first and foremost, why did you decide to play Jiro?
I've been a Jiro main basically since the beginning.
Nice.
It was the second deck that I've built, and I'm new to UFS or UVS.
Nice.
And I've been tinkering with it ever since. I think I've got my list down pretty refined.
Nice.
And I mostly started to build it because he has a great matchup against the top decks, Kirishima and Eraserhead both.
Right. And for me, I also just started playing Yuvia. I literally just picked up the game when the My Hero stuff came out, just because I'm a big My Hero fan, and like that's what got me into it. And one of the main decks that I play was Eraserhead, and I hate facing Jiro because it just feels like she can just pop off and do like all her things before he can even get a chance to erase. So I definitely feel that, you know.
Yeah, basically the only thing he can do is if he has a weapon and charge attack, he can erase one of those abilities, but Jiro gets the first crack at it, so you get to pick whichever one you think is more important. So if you need speed, you get speed. If you need damage, you get damage.
Right. Makes sense. And so what are your thoughts on playing Jiro online, right? Because obviously she has an even more advantage when you play her in person, because only you get to look at the card, whereas online, it gets revealed, right? Just for competitive integrity. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like it affects her in any way or anything like that?
I mean, obviously it affects her. It is a change, and it is negative. It's all downside, basically.
Right.
You lose the ability to play head games with your opponent, putting two on top, and in card games, there's always that small bit of like, you're playing poker, your poker face, and how you look at things, and how you look while you're looking at it, and you don't really get that much in webcam anyway. But you do lose that ability of trying to play head games with your opponent. However, I think Jiro's got power to give. I don't think it really matters that much, and that's not the important part of her. It is an important part. The knowledge itself on your turn is important. But I don't even really use her on my opponent's turn that often in webcams because it lets my opponent know, and informing your opponent about what's coming up
is never a good thing.
usually worse than changing the order of two cards. If you flip and show two attacks, your opponent knows I'm pumping the brakes. I'm just going to fail these checks.
Right.
So they're just not going to do it. And yeah, you can flip it around sometimes. Like if you're going to do it, I usually wait until later in the turn so that, if I'm trying to bluff a block, I'll use it just to be like, hey, I'm going to put this 3 here. I really hope you don't attack. Because like I don't want to block with my attacks. With Jiro, you're basically all in on the beatdown plan. And you want to save some foundations to block, and if you got to block with your attacks, you will, but you need like 5-ish attacks to kill someone, and you can find them, but you want every attack you can going into your turn, and that starts on turn 2, so...
Right, and one thing that you said, Spiff, that I actually want to kind of touch on a little bit, I know you mentioned that like she has power to give and stuff like that, so where do you think Jiro's core power lies?
Jiro's core power lies in one, her flash attacks, in my opinion. Obviously, anybody can play those, but they're better with her because she gets the ability to boost them up a bit. She also has the ability to see them coming, and you have a lot of top deck manipulation, so the 2-check doesn't hurt you as much as it hurts other players, or hurts other characters.
Yep.
Yeah, so the 2-check doesn't hurt you as much, and the flash attacks are so good. It just shuts down so much interaction, which, you could argue is maybe a downside game design-wise, but it is, if there was too much of that, it would be a downside. But she gets just a little bit of it, and it's really good against Kirishima. It's really good against anyone who's using their foundations defensively. And you are, again, an aggro deck. So one of the best, things you could do against Kirishima or a lot of other players is start with a flash attack. You've got the obviously the specialized sound waves,
right?
And then you've got the other one. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's a 4 low for 4.
Amplified Sound Blast.
Yep. Yep. And you make that you give that some damage. So you just throw out the low attack. It's your only low attack. People don't usually hold low blocks against you, and you just get to throw it out there, and then you can just pass your turn after that. Like you set yourself up, you get a momentum. They don't usually block it. And if they do, it doesn't really matter because Kirishima didn't get to he didn't get to build. He didn't get to put cards in his hand. He's just a 5-hander at that point.
True.
So you can deal with a 5-hander because his strength comes in actually like being able to use his abilities, and you get to take that away from him.
You know what? And it's so interesting that you bring that up, and I guess we'll talk about the matchups now. Obviously, me being a new player, I'm learning. This conversation's great because, like, yeah, I never really thought about that. The power of flash effects and not allowing Kirishima to really pop off and start getting things going and churning cards and adding cards back to his hand, right? So that's actually like really good. And do you think like that's the main reason why she has a good matchup against Kirishima, or do you think there's other factors that play into it as well?
It's not. It is probably the main reason.
Mm-hmm.
I keep talking about him, but it's mostly because he is kind of all I face. I don't think he's that big of a menace. I think
really?
You're going to face him a lot for sure, but he's beatable. Jiro proves that. Eraserhead proves that. There are other decks that can beat him. Not all the decks have been explored, you know? The diversity. Most people just pick up the first thing that they saw win a tournament.
Yeah.
And that is going to lower deck diversity. It's going to lower the amount of things that people are trying. So I think that he is beatable, but he is something that you have to keep in mind. And the way that you beat him, with Jiro, is one, the flash attacks, like you said,
right,
and those are a big part of it. But the other part of it is he kind of has problems dealing with long strings of attacks. He's a 5-hander,
right?
And he's only usually going to leave like one card back in his hand to block with because he knows that he can pick 2 up.
Right.
So one of my play patterns with him often is I'll throw out if I'm going for a kill turn, I'll throw out my non-flash attacks first. I'll throw out I have the Ochako throw, the zero gravity lift, and
I love that card.
It's really good. So you could start with that. You know, he might block it, he might not. It doesn't matter. He's going to take up damage. The important thing is he's probably not going to pick up attacks.
Correct.
He might, if he's thinking about it, he might because to give it -2 damage because it's a throw. But he has to like forecast what attacks he's picking up. So if he picks up a high block, I know that he's going to have the high block, and I can go into some of my mid attacks.
Right.
I can go in, or I can just end the chain. He just picked up a foundation. So he has to make his move first.
Right.
And then you force that on your opponent. And if he doesn't pick up an attack, then you end up playing, 2 or 3 flash attacks in a row, and he can't do anything about it. And those attacks get bigger and bigger every time.
Right, because
every
Jiro.
card you play gets it.
Right.
Every attack you play gets more damage. So he has to either block early and lose foundations, or block late or try and guess and block late. But you can always juke that.
So the mind games really start to kick in there. I love that. And you know what? Like, again, I completely agree with what you said. A lot of things haven't been explored. Like, obviously, I feel like the glaring obvious ones, like Kirishima and Eraserhead. Like, for me, as like a new player, like I said, I picked up the game in like November, which is when the game just came out. And I played other card games and things like that throughout my life. Competitively, but I never touched UVS, and even me as a new player, I was like, oh, I'm playing Eraserhead, and I'm playing him on Void with all these kicks and all this stuff, and I think he's broken because like the fact that I could just use Erase, I get +2, -2, I have access to Erase, I have access to like all these different cards. Like, me as a new player, I seen how broken that is, and like I think that Eraserhead's really good. I don't think anybody would argue, but I would also say that I completely agree with you that there's probably a ton of decks that haven't been completely explored. Like, Jiro was a card that was a character that people thought were strong, but I don't think people realized how good she actually was, right? In the beginning. And so that gets me excited, right? Especially for somebody that's just getting into a game. Like, the fact that there's so much, like, the game's not solved. Obviously, it's still really early. It's only one set. But, like, after that first tournament, seeing, like, top 8 was, like, 6 Kirishimas or something, 5 Kirishimas, and all that stuff. And everyone was like, oh, Kirishima's gonna ruin the meta. It's fun to see these types of decks, right?
Yeah, that first tournament, the webcam tournament, I played against, like, 4 Kirishimas on the way up, and then my last round opponent just sideboarded into Kirishima, and I beat all of them except for the last one. I was pretty tired at the end there.
Right.
5 rounds, but Yeah, there are so many other characters, like the new All Might. All Might, I think that's the third one.
Yes.
He has so much card draw. Oh my god.
Yeah. I actually wanted to
So
ask
much
you about
card
that
draw.
real quick, since we're on this topic, not to derail it too much, but yeah, I've been thinking about him, and the fact that he can draw so much, he gets +2 on his attack, +2 on his next attack, and stuff like that. How do you think people are gonna build him? Do you think that they'll focus more on like the fire symbol or use all? He has access to some pretty cool stuff, right?
I think that the punches are probably best with him because you get so much card draw in the punches as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You get future charge if you want. You get the reverse throw if you want.
Yep.
You get full cowling.
Yeah.
It's just more card draw. You will just literally never run out of cards on that All Might.
Yeah.
And all of your attacks, it's pretty good against Eraserhead because you can give it. Sorry, you can give your attack speed at the beginning.
Yep.
And he's gonna, Eraserhead's always gonna have like 4 cards in hand.
Yeah.
So you can give your attack speed, and then give him a little extra damage at the end. Setup strike is really good. He can always minus your speed with the erase pickup or whatever. But if you're giving your attack +4 speed, his -2 speed is not going to be enough.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
block your attacks. So then he's going to have to waste his cards to erase your character and get those cards out of his hand. But you just draw so many cards that you can build up to 10 foundations real quick, and then throw a big barrage of attacks at him like every turn after that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. The DLC is going to be fun. For me, I've been, like, trying to play... Well, I've been having fun playing Mineta, and, like, I think hopefully he'll get a little bit better now that he has access to some of the DLC stuff. But, yeah, like, I completely agree. I think that there's a bunch of decks that can still be explored. But with that being said, before we wrap things up, do you want to just talk about your deck list? Anything specifically that you're running that you want to touch on?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things, I've played a bunch of mirror matches against other Jiro players, and everyone gets real upset when they check a 2 early on in their foundation on their
building
first turn build.
Right.
Yeah, on their first turn build, and they'll always chalk it up to, oh man, all right, I guess you win. You got lucky this time. But the thing is, I will check 2s the entire time. That's how I focus my build. The only 2 diff cards that I'm running in my foundations are Specialist of Sound and 1 Encouragement. And you can have turns where you build your 4 foundations, and it doesn't matter if you check it 2, And then obviously you'll check 3s if you have to, but if you minimize that in your spam, then it doesn't matter if you check the 2s, and it's something that it's not luck, it's deck building. So
I like that.
Yeah, you can build around that aspect of her, and the card is Specialized Sound Waves is so powerful that it is worth building. It is worth giving up some of the better foundations. I'm on air, but I'm not going to play Rescue Completed because I'm going to play that as my first foundation, flip a 2-check, and just auto lose the game. Right. And that's going to happen. If you play enough games, that's going to happen.
Yeah,
so you have to play around that.
Right.
You have to play around that. The other thing that is a little unique to my deck list, and I've seen some people talking about in the Discord, or arguing about in the Discord, is I only run 2 home run comets in the main.
I noticed that, yeah.
My sideboard has, it finishes off the 4-ofs of a couple of the attacks that I run. I don't think you need more than 2 home run comets in the main, because when it's good, you can find it. Specialized Sound Waves is good like that. It helps you. It gives you the card you need when you need it, as long as as long as it's in your graveyard. And people say it's so good. It gets attack and speed, and it puts a foundation in your momentum.
Right.
And those are all true, but there are characters that it's not very good against. It's not very good against Kirishima. It's a high block that is slow. It doesn't have flash, so he's going to see it coming.
Right.
And yeah, it can get speed. And he can, you can give it a bunch of speed and make it hard for him to block, but people argue like, oh, you can play it at the beginning and put your momentum in, and that's true, but then you're debuilding yourself. If you don't kill that turn, you just debuilt yourself. And if you don't, I run a lot of untapped foundations. I will go like 4 attacks in,
right,
and not commit any foundations while I'm doing it. And if you're putting an untapped foundation into your momentum,
that's one less resource. Right.
Yeah. So instead of the 4 home run comets main, I run 2 instant explosive releases. And I feel that instant explosive release makes my turn 2 kill way more consistent. So you start off your turn, you can play the throw and get the easy guaranteed damage in, and then you go into instant explosive release. And instant explosive release puts your opponent in a hard position. If they don't block it, they're taking 3 damage, and then your next attack is going to get +2 damage. If they do block it, they've just made all of their blocks, even though it's only a 3-speeded card and you're not giving it any bonuses.
Right.
They're now making the rest of their blocks for that turn 1 harder. So you're chaining off. Like they're gonna have to block a lot of your attacks.
Right.
So
exactly.
if they're wasting their block on this, then that's just 1 more block that they don't have in hand, and it's going to your momentum anyway. It's a 3 diff attack, which makes it super easy to help you do your long chains. So even if it's not going to your momentum, it's you can throw it out, and I just like having a lot of really low cost attacks. The only 5 cost I run is Unwavering Slash, and that untaps the foundation while you do it, so it's basically a 4 diff. But you can also throw out the 4 low for flash attack.
Yep.
And they often don't block that one, so you have a lot of attacks that lead well into instant explosive release, and it clears your pool, which is counterintuitive. Like it does take away from the damage and speed of your attacks down the chain, but you don't need to have a 20 damage home run comet. Like every time I'm playing home run comet, I'm only ever putting 1 momentum into it anyway. You only need it to do like 10 damage. So it doesn't matter if it's, you clear 1 card out of your card pool, it's going to make all the rest of your cards cheaper. You're going to get to go that 1 extra attack further in to your chain, and you're going to get to, actually play your cards instead of, so that when you check a 3 at some point, because you can't fix all of your checks, it's not the end. It's not the end of the chain for you.
Right.
And I really like that attack, and I think it's a little undervalued.
Nice. I mean, yeah, like I really like the idea of it allowing you to really extend that chain, put that pressure on when you are going for those kill turns, as you said. And yeah, like again, it's a 3 diff attack. We don't have many of those in the game so far, so definitely completely agree.
I'm running 6 copies of them.
True. That is true. All right. Well, thank you so much for this. Do you have any shout outs, anything specifically you want to say to end it off?
Yeah, I want to shout out my my LGS Tower of Games in Virginia Beach.
Nice. I'll put a link.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a really great community there. We just had 7 players at our last tournament, and we're projected to have 11 this week. So I'm really excited for our locals. We keep growing. We've gotten a lot of like organic interest, like people just, I obviously proselytized a bunch. I went out and spread the good word, but we've got a bunch of people actually just show up while we're playing and want to join, and they'll buy decks right then and there, the rival deck boxes, and join in, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, man, because like that's how the game grows, right? And it's good to see that like people can just go into their local shop, see people having fun, and be like, oh, you know what? I want to get into this, right? And like maybe you'll echo this sentiment, but like for me, especially as a new player, like I found like coming into this game, a lot of people are very welcoming, and like they want you to learn, they want you to have fun, right? Like there isn't much gatekeeping, if any, which is something that I feel like is really good, especially for a game like this, because it's only going to allow it to grow, right? When you kind of have those gatekeepers and things like that, they'll turn new players away, especially because this game is pretty complicated. There's so many things to keep track of. I feel like it's really good. That's awesome that your store is doing that.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm really glad to have a community.
Nice. All right. Well, with that being said, guys, that was Spiff. That was his 2nd place win. We'll see if he can take 1st place. I'm sure he's going to keep competing and all that good stuff. And yeah, good luck, man, and keep up the good work.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right.